I moved into the old apartment complex about 3 months ago on New Year's Eve. I thought a change would do me good. I was 32 and a freelance graphic designer, ready for a fresh start. The place had its quirks and charm, but it also felt heavy somehow. I tried to ignore it, and made plans to celebrate alone in my new home. As I arranged snacks and settled in front of the TV, I started to hear soft knocks coming from the wall. At first, I thought it was just a neighbor getting ready for their own party. The knocks were rhythmic, almost syncing with the countdown on my screen. I shrugged it off and tried to focus on the celebration, but then the knocking got louder. It turned into steady thumps, distinct and urgent. My heart began to race. I looked at the clock. Midnight was approaching. Maybe it was excitement, I told myself, but then I heard muffled laughter that sent a chill down my spine. Something compelled me to leave my apartment. I stepped out into the dim hallway, and an eerie silence surrounded me. I knocked on a couple of neighbors' doors, but no one answered. The lights were off, and I caught glimpses of shadowy figures through the curtains. They seemed to look at me, but then turned away as if sharing a secret. I returned inside, trying to distract myself with the TV, but the knocking wouldn't leave my mind. Each tap felt like a cold finger tracing my fear. I felt the sweat on my neck, and picked up my phone to call someone, but stopped myself. I didn't want to sound crazy. The next morning, I woke feeling heavy-eyed and exhausted. I decided to dig into the building's history. As I sifted through old news articles and stories from previous tenants, my stomach dropped. I found out about a woman who lived in my unit ages ago. She disappeared on New Year's Eve, just like the noises I heard. I thought it was just a coincidence. Maybe she moved away without telling anyone, but the more I uncovered, the darker the stories became. Neighbors spoke of cold spots in the hallways and strange happenings every New Year's Eve, like something was stuck in time. My heart raced again. Was I just looking for something that wasn't real? The building was old, right? It had its normal noises. Then, as I sat feeling unsettled, the knocking started again. This time, it was faster. My blood ran cold. I wanted to get out, but something told me to stay. That S when I heard it, a whisper right by my ear. "Help me!" I spun around. No one was there. My pulse quickened. I felt the walls closing in. I took a step back. Confusion wrestled with fear in my gut. Shadows danced in my mind as I clutched my phone tightly. I didn't know what to do. The knocking continued, faster than before, echoing in my heart. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. I was trapped in a moment where time felt heavy, and all I could do was listen. I spent the rest of the day tangled in thoughts, my mind spinning with confusion. What did that whisper mean? I paced around my apartment, trying to shake the feeling of being watched. It was hard to concentrate on work. I stared at my screen, knowing I had deadlines creeping up, but the knocking haunted me. As the sun began to set, I decided to get out of the apartment for a bit. I needed fresh air. The cold breeze hit my face as I stepped outside, and I breathed in deeply. I could still feel the tension in my shoulders, though. I walked around the block, my thoughts swirling. Was it really just a coincidence that the woman disappeared on New Year's Eve? Why did the place feel so wrong? When I returned to my apartment, I hesitated at the door. I didn't want to go in, but I needed to face whatever was happening. With a deep breath, I twisted the doorknob and stepped inside. The heaviness returned immediately. I looked around, half expecting to see a shadow lurking. Suddenly, there was a loud thump from the wall. My heart jumped, and I froze. I remembered the stories I read about the old building. I felt a pull, a need to figure this all out. I grabbed my phone and opened an app to record. The idea of capturing the noise felt ridiculous, but I needed proof. Just as I hit record, the knocking came again, louder this time. And then, Silence. I was left standing there, listening to my own shallow breaths. The moment felt unreal. I slowly walked towards the wall, pressing my ear against it. A cold wave washed over me, and I recoiled, feeling a strange mix of fear and curiosity. I took a step back, my phone still recording. That's when I noticed something on the floor. Something small and dark had slipped from the shadows. I bent down to get a closer look. It was a key, a rusty old key, and it looked strangely out of place in my modern apartment. I picked it up, feeling its weight in my palm. My mind raced. Could this key belong to the woman who disappeared? Was there something hidden in this building that I didn't know about? I turned the key over, but there was nothing remarkable about it. Just an ordinary key, but it felt like a connection to something much larger. Then, the lights flickered. I glanced at the overhead bulb, and my breath hitched. The knocking resumed, not from the wall this time. It was coming from the door. A rapid, panicked knocking. I rushed to the door, my heart racing madly. "Who is it?" I shouted, expecting an answer but getting nothing. Just the sound of the relentless knocking drowning out my own fear. There was no one else in the hallway, but I could sense the pressure building around me. I turned to the key, my fingers trembling. I knew I should leave it alone, but the temptation pulled me closer. What had I stumbled into? Before I could think clearly, I slipped the key into my pocket. The knocking grew more insistent, and I took a step back, debating if I should open the door or confront whatever was behind it. My gut told me to find out what lay beyond, but every instinct screamed at me to run. Suddenly, the whispers returned, this time louder. Another voice joined in, "You must find us." My breath caught. The whispers were not just in my head. I could feel the urgency rising. It was as if the apartment itself was calling me to take action. Then everything went dark. I blinked, but the darkness didn't fade. I was enveloped in a void, an all-consuming absence of light. The fear clutched at my throat. My heart thundered in my chest as I fumbled for the wall, searching for something solid. Then, just as swiftly as it had come, the dark lifted. I stumbled backward, nearly crashing into the dresser. My apartment was back, but a strange chill filled the air, making the hairs on my arms stand on end. The knocking had stopped. Silence blanketed the room, broken only by my ragged breaths. I glanced at the door, half expecting it to swing open. It didn't. I took a tentative step towards the light switch, but the flickering bulb above made me hesitate. Instead, I reached for my phone. I needed the reassurance of its glow. The screen lit up, and I quickly opened the recording app, wondering if I had captured the whispers. As I replayed the recording, my breath caught again. The echo of the knocking reached through the speakers, but that wasn't all. A static hum filled the background, and then I heard it, the whispers. "You must find us." It was clearer now, ringing in my ears long after the audio ended. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was compelling me from within the building, pulling me to discover whatever secrets lay hidden. But how? The key in my pocket felt heavier with each passing moment, as if it were alive. I paced around the apartment, restless. That's when I caught movement out of the corner of my eye. I turned quickly, my heart clenching. The bathroom door was ajar. I could have sworn I had closed it earlier. A tide of dread washed over me. I approached, forcing myself to look. The air seemed to thrum with anticipation. I peeked inside, holding my phone like a flashlight. The room appeared empty, but the mirror was fogged, as if someone had just stepped out of the shower. I moved closer to it, noticing something scrawled across the glass. It was written in what looked like a shaky hand, letters crisscrossing in chaos. "Find me." I recoiled, mind racing. Who had written that? Was it connected to the whispers? My imagination spiraled, conjuring images of the woman who had disappeared. But just as my curiosity bubbled, a loud crash echoed from the hallway. I whipped around, pulse pounding in my ears. Before I could react, I heard someone know something shuffling outside my door. A shiver raced down my spine. Every rational thought screamed for me to hide. Instead, the weight of the key pressed against me, urging me to confront whatever lay beyond. I knew I had to decide quickly. The knocking could return, and whatever was out there might not wait for me to gather courage. I took a deep, steadying breath and reached for the doorknob. The door rattled suddenly, as if someone was about to push it open. My heart raced. Should I run? Or open the door and face the unknown? I turned the knob. It clicked open. The door creaked as I pushed it open, revealing the dimly lit hallway. The shadows danced along the walls, flickering as if they were alive. I peered outside, my phone held tight in my hand. The hallway was empty. Silence echoed ominously, yet a lingering whisper tugged at my mind, urging me to step further. I hesitated, scanning for signs of whatever had caused the noise. Was it just my imagination? Then, from down the hall, I heard a soft, shuffling sound, like footsteps dragging across the worn carpet. It sent a bolt of ice through me. I edged out of my apartment, my heart racing, instinctively drawn toward the noise. I couldn't explain why, but I felt that I had no choice. As I moved closer to the source of the sound, I noticed the flicker of another apartment's door barely ajar, light spilling out into the hallway. A chill danced across my skin. I approached with caution, the dim light at the end painting the path ahead in uncertain shadows. "Hello?" I called, my voice trembling slightly. No response came, just the continued shuffling. It felt like a wordless invitation wrapped in a warning, a call to discover something hidden. I didn't want to go further, but the key in my pocket burned against my skin. I stopped at the door, one arm outstretched, ready to push it open. That's when I noticed a piece of paper pinned to the wall beside it. I stepped closer and read the handwriting, a frantic scrawl that sent another wave of dread through me. "Help her. She is in danger." My stomach dropped. Who was in danger? And who was I supposed to help? I felt like I had stumbled into a nightmare. Ignoring the urge to run, I took a breath and pushed the door open wider. The room inside was dark, the curtains drawn tight. A silhouette stood at the far wall, unmoving. I squinted, trying to make out any details. This was how I had imagined my night would unfold. "Are you okay?" I stepped inside, the darkness swallowing me whole. The figure turned slowly. I recognized the outline from my nightmares. It was a woman, pale and trembling, her hair falling over her face. I took a step back, my skin crawling. "Please help me," she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. Before I could respond, a loud crash echoed from behind me, and the door slammed shut with a force that rattled the walls. Panic surged through me as the woman raised her hand, pointing toward a dark corner of the room. I spun around. The shadows there seemed to shift and breathe, dark tendrils stretching toward me. I felt a pull, as if they were reaching out to claim me. I was trapped. Should I confront the growing darkness or help the woman? "Find the key," she gasped, a look of desperation in her eyes. Then everything went dark. I was engulfed in darkness, and it felt so heavy, like being submerged in deep water. The woman's plea echoed in my mind. "Find the key." But how? I couldn't see anything. I took a deep breath and focused on the faint whispers that lingered in the air, hoping to catch some clue. My heart thundered in my chest, and I slowly raised my phone, the screen illuminating the area just enough to reveal the woman's face. Her expression was etched with fear, and deep shadows clung to her features like a shroud. "Where is it?" I whispered, my voice trembling. "Behind the curtain," she urged, her eyes darting to the window. I turned toward it, my breath hitching as my fingers brushed against the fabric. The curtain felt cold and clammy, almost like a living thing. I hesitated, the weight of fear pushing against my chest. With a quick motion, I yanked the curtain open. A blast of wind swept through the room, chilling me to the bone. I squinted against the sudden light and noticed a small, rusted key hanging next to a window latch. It glimmered faintly, as if drawing me closer. Just as I reached for it, the shadowy tendrils began to writhe around my feet, pulling me down. I stumbled backward, barely managing to stay upright. "Please, don't let it take you," the woman screamed. I could see the shadows starting to wrap around her ankles now, pulling her toward the darkness. My hand darted out, grasping the key. I didn't know what it unlocked, but I felt that this was my only chance. I faced the woman, ready to act fast. "Hold on," I shouted, trying to mask my own fear. I turned the key over in my mind. Where did it belong? The door? But that door was closed tight, and there was no way to open it now. The shadows lunged again, moving closer with an unsettling speed. I had to act. I rushed toward the door, fumbling with the key as the woman called out, "No!" "The basement." I froze. "The basement?" "Please." The basement door. Unlocked. Without a second thought, I sprinted towards the door, my palm slick against the key as I shoved it into the lock. I twisted it, hearing a faint click, then pushed open the door. It swung wide, revealing a flight of stairs descending into the darkness below. "Come on!" I cried, glancing over my shoulder, as the weight of the shadows pressed harder against the doorway. The woman looked hesitantly at the shadows, and then back to me. "Are you? I can't leave you." "Please, hurry," I urged. She made a break for it, her bare feet barely touching the ground as she rushed into the light spilling from the hallway. Just as the shadows lunged for us, we raced down the stairs. I could hear the creeping darkness snarling behind us, determined to pull us back. But when I reached the bottom, the darkness swallowed me again. A familiar sensation clung to my skin, an unbearable cold, and a feeling that something was waiting for me down here. I turned to see her behind me, her face pale but determined. "What now?" That's when I noticed a faint glow emitting from the walls, illuminating a scrawled message. The words were barely legible, but I had to fight the panic. "Get out, seek the truth." Suddenly, the walls trembled, and I heard a distant rumble. The house itself seemed to be groaning in warning. Next to me, the woman gasped. "We need to go back. Now!" But as she turned to flee, something pulled at my gut. I couldn't leave without knowing what happened here. The shadows behind us began to close in, and I realized I had to find out what the truth was. The wall shuddered again, and I could feel the heaviness of the shadows pressing in around us. "We can't go back up there," I said, my voice urgent. "It's worse up there. We have to find out what is going on down here." She hesitated. "But what if we can't get out?" Her eyes filled with fear, and I understood. The basement felt like a trap, and part of me wanted to join her in fleeing. But I had come this far. I squared my shoulders and took a deep breath. "Let us look around," I said, hoping to sound more confident than I felt. "Maybe we'll find something that can help." The glow on the walls pulsed gently, casting eerie shadows that danced around us. I stepped forward, scanning for anything that looked useful or significant. The faint glow illuminated more strange markings, like symbols I couldn't decipher. They seemed to thrum with energy, inviting me closer, telling me to investigate. Then I spotted something gleaming beneath a pile of debris in the corner. I moved toward it, pushing aside the remnants of old furniture. The closer I got, the more I saw it wasn't just an object, it was a trapdoor, with splintered but still intact. "What did you find?" she asked, her eyes locked onto what I was pulling free. "A door," I replied, feeling a rush of excitement mixed with fear. "Maybe it leads to another way out. Or something more important." Before I could think twice, I grabbed the rusty handle and yanked. The door creaked open, revealing a dark tunnel lined with bricks. I caught a whiff of damp earth and mildew. It felt like another world. We exchanged a glance, both uncertain but drawn to the mystery ahead. "Do we dare?" she asked, her voice a soft tremor. I nodded, adrenaline replacing the chill of fear. "We have to." We stepped down into the tunnel, the air growing colder with each step. The narrow passage constricted, making it hard to breathe. A sense of dread settled heavy on my shoulders. But then I heard it, a soft whispering sound, curling through the air like smoke. "What is that?" she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. I couldn't tell if it was echoing off the walls or coming from the ground itself. The whispers grew louder, almost urgent. "Find us, find the truth. What do they want?" she asked, glancing back toward the trapdoor we had left behind. "I don't know," I admitted, my heart racing. "But it feels like we're getting closer to something." As we pressed further, the whispers twisted into a cacophony, each voice vying for attention. Panic surged through me. I couldn't make sense of it. "Maybe we should turn back," I said suddenly. "No," she insisted. "We're too close." Just then, I caught a glimpse of movement at the end of the tunnel. A shadow darted past, too quick to catch. My stomach dropped. "Did you see that?" I stammered. Before she could answer, the ground trembled violently beneath us, and I stumbled. An unfamiliar roar erupted, a sound that rattled my bones. "What is happening?" I yelled. The shadows became more aggressive, swirling around us like a storm. "Run!" I screamed, grabbing her arm, pulling her back toward the trapdoor. But even as I raced, I felt the darkness closing in. It wasn't letting us go that easily. I had to find the truth before it consumed us. And I needed to uncover what lay ahead, even if it terrified me. The tunnel felt endless as we rushed deeper, the walls closing in around us like the jaws of some unseen beast. I could sense the panic radiating from her, but I pressed on, my instincts driving me forward despite the terror quilling in my gut. "Wait!" she shouted, her voice straining against the chaos. "We need to think. Are you sure this is the way?" "I don't know," I shouted back, frustration bubbling under my skin. "But we have to keep moving." As we stumbled further down the tunnel, the soft whispers transformed into a desperate chant. I couldn't tell if they were speaking to us or just around us. "Find the truth, find us," they echoed in my mind, growing louder with each step. Suddenly, the floor shifted beneath us. Concrete cracked, and a jagged fissure opened, swallowing the light. I barely caught my balance as piece after piece of the floor crumbled into that darkness. "This place is falling apart," she yelled, fear seeping into her words. I grabbed her hand tightly, pulling her closer as the voices swelled around us. That S when I saw it, a faint light flickering up ahead, pulsating like a heartbeat. It seemed to pulse in time with the whispers. "Look!" I pointed, my eyes narrowing. "Maybe whatever this is, it leads somewhere." "But what if it's a trap?" she replied, uncertainty creeping back into her voice. "Any place is better than here." I gulped down my fear. I wanted to believe it was true. We had no chance of surviving in this claustrophobic tomb. As we made our way toward the light, I caught fragments of the whispers, a name, a place, a warning. It's the old church," I stammered, piecing together a memory I had buried long ago. "They said it went underground." She looked at me with wide eyes. "You mean the church outside of town? The one everyone avoids?" I nodded, a chill crawling up my spine. What if they were right? What if there is something down here connected to all those stories? The flickering light grew stronger, and soon we reached a chamber, a vast underground room that opened up like a cavern. Everything was coated in a sickly sheen, and the whispers became a roar. The light pulsed from a symbol carved into the stone floor, glowing with an unnatural energy. "Do you see that?" My companion breathed, taking a hesitant step closer. As she approached, the weight of the air shifted. I felt something brush against my leg, cold and slick, like fingers reaching out of the dark. A primal fear kicked in, gripping my heart. "Get back!" I shouted, stepping in front of her. I squinted into the shadows that seemed to pulse along the edges of the chamber, waiting, watching. Then I saw them, a figure materializing from the darkness, shrouded in shadows, its features obscured. I could feel the panic swelling inside me, my body frozen in place. I wanted to yell, to run, but my throat felt tight. That was when it spoke. "You've come looking for the truth, Haven TU?" The voice resonated, echoing off the cavern walls, sending shivers down my spine. I held my breath, unable to respond, the weight of secrets pressing down on my chest. "Now you must decide," it continued, advancing slowly, each movement deliberate. "Will you embrace what you find, or will you flee back to the light?" Before I could answer, the ground trembled again. The shadows danced wildly, swallowing the flickering light. I turned to the exit, only to find the way back blocked. "We need to run," I called out, grabbing her hand again, my mind racing. But as I looked back, two glowing eyes watched us from the darkness, the truth lurking just beyond reach. No more hiding. Whatever lay ahead, we were about to confront it. The air crackled with tension, thick enough to cut through. I could feel the weight of the unknown pressing down on us as the figure continued to advance, swirling shadows surrounding it like a cloak. "We can't stay here," I repeated, urgency clawing at my throat. I tried to pull her toward the only way out, but the shadows were thickening around the entrance, the darkness pooling like a living thing. "No, wait," she hissed, her eyes darting from the figure to the glow of the symbol below. It flickered, pulsing erratically, casting twisted shapes on the walls. "It knows something. We have to hear it out." My heart raced. What could it possibly have to say that would make any sense? But the desperation in her voice held me still for a moment. "What do you want from us?" I shouted, willing to confront whatever it was that loomed before us. The eyes glowed brilliantly, locking onto mine. "Truth," it whispered. The word echoed as if carried by the wind, throbbing in the chamber. I felt a magnetic pull toward its gaze, against my will. "Truth?" I scoffed, anger bubbling up as I shook my head. "What truth could you provide that isn't already a trap?" "Truth is a reflection. Sometimes it hides." The figure's voice sliced through the din of whispers, low and hypnotic. "You're both searching for something, aren't you? Something that haunts you." I exchanged a quick glance with her. I wanted to deny it, to brush off the accusation, but a hollow sensation settled in my chest. My thoughts raced back to sleepless nights, the stories I heard about this place. The shadows danced more intensely, as if sensing the vulnerability in my silence. "Your connection to this place is deeper than you realize," it said, tilting its head. "You were drawn here for a reason." "No!" I shouted, fighting the urge to look into those luminescent eyes. I wanted to reject the claim. "We're not like you. Just let us go." The figure paused, a flicker of understanding passing through the shadows. "You seek answers." A loud crack echoed in the chamber, breaking my concentration. The floor began to tremble again. I glanced down, watching as the symbol shifted, the glow intensifying. Strange patterns spread outward from it like roots, crawling toward us. "We have to leave." I grabbed her arm and pulled, but she resisted. "Wait! Look!" She pointed at the symbol. A new shape emerged within it, coalescing into an image, half-formed but undeniably recognizable. My breath hitched as I saw the face of a woman I had thought lost forever. "Mom?" I whispered, disbelief mixing with longing. The images shifted, overlapping with old memories. My mind reeled as the past collided with the present. "Accept the truth," the figure urged, its voice rising above the noise. "Face what you left behind." Just then, the chamber wall shuddered violently, knocking us off balance. I struggled to keep my footing, but I could see the image of my mother start to fade away into the chaos. "No!" I screamed, lunging toward it. But the ground cracked beneath me, splitting open, and the shadows surged forward. "Grab on!" I yelled, and I held her tight as we stumbled back toward the symbol, desperate not to lose what was revealing itself. Then, everything went dark. I felt a sudden rush, a weightlessness, as if we had fallen off the edge of the world. A wild vibration filled the air, a sound that was endless and terrifying. My heart raced as I braced for impact, uncertain if we would ever touch solid ground again. I hit the ground hard, gasping for breath. My surroundings didn't feel like the chamber anymore. Instead, I found myself in a dimly lit room, the air thick with a palpable heaviness. I blinked rapidly, trying to adjust to the gloom. "Are you okay?" I heard her voice, shaky but clear. She knelt beside me, her face etched with concern. "I think so," I replied, pushing myself into a sitting position. I scanned the room, the walls lined with dark wood and lit by flickering candles that barely pushed back the shadows. We were still somewhere deep in this nightmare, but somewhere new. "What just happened?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I don't know." Panic clawed at my chest. Just then, a soft rustling sound echoed nearby. I froze. "Do you hear that?" "Yeah," she whispered, wide-eyed. The rustling grew louder, branches brushing against the walls. But it was branches. It sounded more like whispers. I strained to make sense of the voices, but they were indistinct and layered, echoing around us like an ominous lullaby. Then abruptly, the whispers stopped. An unsettling silence filled the space, stretching on until it became unbearable. I took a deep breath, trying to regain my composure. "Maybe it's just the wind," she suggested, though her eyes betrayed her fear. I shook my head. "We need to find a way out. This isn't whatever that was. We can't stay here." I scrambled to my feet, gesturing for her to follow. As we moved deeper into the room, the shadows seemed to gather around us. A flash of light caught my eye from the corner. "Look!" I pointed. There, half hidden beneath a fallen beam, was a strange, ornate box. It's hard to describe, really. The base was covered with intricate carvings that seemed almost alive, twisting and writhing in the low light. A chill ran down my spine as I approached it. "Do you think we should open it?" She hesitated, biting her lip. "What if it has something to do with everything we've seen?" "Or it could lead us back," I argued, staring down at the box. Everything about it felt magnetic, drawing me in. "Maybe we shouldn't tamper with it," she warned, but even she seemed torn. The box almost pulsed with energy, like it was waiting. Before I could think better, I knelt and reached for the lid. My fingers brushed against the cool surface, and for a moment, I hesitated. Then the ground trembled beneath us again, more violently this time. The box rattled, and I quickly pulled back my hand, fear gripping me. "What is happening?" she gasped. "I don't know," I shouted, and just as I did, a loud crack split the room. The candles flickered wildly, creating a mad dance of light and shadow. "Run!" I yelled, grabbing her arm. Together, we sprinted toward the door that seemed to materialize out of thin air. The shadows were alive now, swirling around us like tendrils, reaching out with ghostly fingers. Just as we crossed the threshold, the whispers crashed back into a frenzy, drowning out my thoughts. I was pulled into another rushed space, the world around me shifting and darkening like we were caught in the tide of a storm. I stumbled, but we kept moving, helpless and desperate. The only relief I could feel was the ever-growing need to escape whatever was waiting for us in the shadows. Then, through the chaos, I caught a fleeting glimpse of something or someone standing in the distance. A figure cloaked in darkness, watching us. My heart lurched. Then everything collapsed again into the dark. I gasped as the world came back into focus, the oppressive darkness lifting. I found myself sprawled on the cold floor of my living room, the familiar walls of my apartment surrounding me, yet shrouded in an unsettling stillness. The air felt charged, heavy with remnants of whatever had just transpired. I blinked rapidly, trying to shake off the fog of confusion. The knocking was gone, as was the echo of whispers that had seemed to live in my bones, but my hands trembled as I pushed myself up. The key still sat in my pocket, its weight a small comfort in the aftermath. Had it been real? What had just happened? "Are you okay?" came a voice, soft and worried. I turned, startled to see the woman. She stood at the far corner, her form barely illuminated by the faint glow of my lamp. But she looked different now, more solid, yet infused with an ethereal presence. Where are we?" I asked, my voice hoarse. The question felt absurd as all the paradoxes flooded my mind. Had we escaped? Or had this left me tangled deeper in the nightmares? "I think we made it," she replied, her gaze steady. "But I don't know how. The shadows, they tried to pull us back. I only remember light." I took a deep breath, needing to solidify reality around me. "So it's over?" "I don't know," she said, uncertainty clouding her eyes. "But the truth, it's here with you." A wave of coldness washed over me, bringing the memories rushing back. The box, the whispers, and the figure. It felt like pieces of a puzzle scattered in the air, each fragment insisted for me to connect them. I arose, glancing around my apartment, everything normal yet not. The heavy silence was unnerving. And yet, despite the weight of uncertainty, I felt lighter in some sense. I had a choice now. Footsteps on carpet echoed as I paced toward the front door, glancing at the key nestled in my palm, the metal cool and familiar. The energy it emitted felt almost alive, a continuous pulse that captured my attention. "I have to know more," I murmured, sensing the urgency grip my insides. "About the woman in my apartment, the disappearances, why I was brought here." "Be careful," she cautioned, stepping forward. "Not everything revealed is safe to face." I hesitated, remembering the darkness and the figure that lingered at the back of my mind. But the thought surged through me. Could there be more answers awaiting than I hadn't yet sought? I had a chance to confront the truth instead of running. With a nod, the woman acquiesced. As I turned the doorknob and stepped out into the hallway, a chill swept across my skin again. The lights flickered above, but the knocking remained silent, the shivering tension replaced with soft whispers that seemed to dance just beyond my grasp. Yet, as I moved through the hallway toward the stairwell, a shiver ran through me. It didn't feel as ominous anymore, but there was still an unsettling undercurrent, a mystery that had yet to reveal itself fully. I glanced back, finding the woman watching me, uncertainty etched on her face. Will you come with me?" My heart ached for reassurance. "I'll follow," she said softly. "But remember, once you step into the truth, there's no going back." With a steadying breath, I descended into the unknown, a new purpose rising within me. I had no answers, only questions swirling, but there was no hiding from the shadows any longer. Whether supernatural or merely echoes of my own mind, there were layers yet to uncover. As I passed through the doorway, the mundane living began to fade behind me, slipping back into the realm of the unsaid. I embraced the unease pooling in my gut, knowing whatever awaited me would test both my courage and resolve. I felt the woman's presence beside me, our shared question beginning to shape the contours of destiny. We would face this together. And in that haunting ambiguity, I resolved to uncover whatever lay hidden in the shadows, even if it meant reckoning with the ghosts of my past. Some things are left unanswered, forever echoing in that interplay between light and darkness. And though the journey ahead felt treacherous, I took that first step, knowing I was never truly alone anymore.